Good afternoon and good morning to those of you that have joined us from overseas. However, we have Angela and Juan, and you are both overseas in completely different time zones. So, Happy New Year. I think it's still okay to say Happy New Year to everyone.
Yes.
And I'm excited to say we have our second demo of the globally software and system and what you guys are providing. So as always, we're just going to give it a few seconds just for everyone to settle in, and then we will start. So I was going to see if I could keep quiet just for 30 seconds, but I'm not sure because I always find it really difficult.
Well, I will, I was going to say I will help you, but I don't think I can.
I think me and you are a bit too similar. I think we're finding out.
Yes, indeed.
Right, so shall we start? So today is recorded. So if at any point you do miss any of today's session, we will always provide the recording. But today, it's a really good session actually, because we're discussing transforming from current providers made simple. And I think the thing is that it's quite a scary process for some people. So it's a really good topic. And Angela was just giving me like a brief of what you're discussing today. So I think it's really important and looking forward to it. I'm going to keep quiet, come on camera, and Angela and Juan, if you'd like to introduce yourself and today start today's webinar.
Oh, certainly. Thank you. Well, thank you, Melanie. We're excited to do our second webinar in this three-part webinar series with you. We had a good time in the last webinar that focused on our agentic AI payroll gross to net engine. And so for this one, we're really excited to talk about things that are top of mind in the payroll community, and that's when you're transitioning from your current provider and what that process or that experience would look like. And so, to start with introductions, I'm Angela Martin. I am head of go-to-market. And Juan?
Thank you, Angela. My name is Juan Velasquez. I am the solutions engineer here at Globally, and I'm looking forward to show you how easy it is to transition into Globally.
Thank you. And with that, I think that when we think about what the transitioning process looks like, and you're thinking, okay, if you're new to Globally, who is Globally? Globally is the people operating system. It's a system really tailored for the global payroll community where it really helps simplify the payments and the managing of employees in anywhere in the world. Our global footprint is over 125 countries. And so we have built a solution that simplifies and optimizes how you manage global payroll. Okay. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about what we see in the industry today. And with traditional payroll implementations, we know that they tend to be lengthy and time-consuming projects. So when you think of payroll implementation, you're not thinking, I'm really looking forward to making this transition. Also, they often require long runways before they even provide any real value. And oftentimes it can either be a long runway or it may be a risky big bang go live at the end of the project. But with that, anytime that you're looking at those two approaches, there are always rigid timelines. And so when they're driven by these rigid timelines, it leaves a little room to adapt as your requirements may evolve. And we also know that when making these transitions, they do demand heavy involvement from internal teams, whether it's pulling HR, finance, IT from their day-to-day responsibilities for extended periods of time. So when we think about how implementations or these transitions, how they progress, you're also trying to control the environment because oftentimes the more complex the payroll is, certainly there's uncovered change orders and they become common. And what started as a defined scope can often expand, driving additional cost and delays and risk. So the result of a traditional implementation is often high effort, high stress, and that can be, very difficult to manage and predict. When we think about transitioning, there's also a need to acknowledge risk, right? So when you're thinking about the risk involved, every payroll person does this weigh of the amount of risk that they're going to own. There's the risk of, hey, what if people are paid late or incorrectly? What if there's a greater exposure to some compliance and regulatory issues through this process? What if there are issues with the data that's migrated over to the system? What if all of a sudden what we thought would be data integrity is now turned into a data disaster? Operational disruption. This is always a concern for payroll people and payroll teams where they think, what happens if something does go wrong? And if something does go wrong, who's going to accept the blame for it? Who is going to be blamed for it? And that's always a concern as well. And these are, when you think about not only how traditional implementations can be high stress in itself, but now you're thinking of the risk and reward. There's a lot of risk, and when you think about the acknowledgement of risk piece, it sounds like there's little reward, and that's why, there was a survey in 2024, 2005, Sapient Insights, where it disclosed that less than 25% of organizations actually transition to payroll providers because of the concern of the risk versus reward. So I'm kind of curious with the audience that we have here. I think this is a great opportunity to kind of open this up for discussion where let's take a quick poll in making a change. And maybe you've made a change or you're thinking about making a change. But what's your greatest fear in changing payroll providers? Is it whether it is the fact that, hey, employees getting paid late or incorrectly? Is it possibly that the data migrates incorrectly and it causes errors? I'd love to see what the audience adds to the poll.
So obviously I can see the answers, Angela, but what do you think is going to be the answer?
I think it's going to be the last one, being blamed if something goes wrong, because for payroll teams, they are the stakeholder, the main primary stakeholder. And they've put in this work to research, okay, what's really going to be the best solution to help the team, to help the business optimize our internal operations. And it could be a part of their digital transformation strategy, but they've done all of this work and diligence. And then now they're thinking, wait a minute, what could possibly go wrong? A lot of things could go wrong in implementation. So now they're thinking about the risk component. And I think it's going to be the last one. I
Well,
would ask you what you think, but you can already see the
no, I
answers.
can see the answers. I can see it. But Juan, what do you reckon?
I believe it's going to be the last one, or probably the data migration errors. I think because there is a lot of data that has to move from one place to another. So probably that's one of
Yeah.
the worries that payroll teams should have.
Okay, so I do have like my magic number for those of you that join our webinars regularly. We're not there yet, so I'm going to close it shortly. So if you haven't answered, if you could answer, I would appreciate. And we'll shut it down in a few seconds. Okay, so here are the results. So the biggest one is actually operational disruption.
Operational disruption.
Yeah.
Okay.
See
And
how, sorry, Angela.
yeah, and being blamed was actually the smallest percentage, and being paid incorrectly or late only 8%. So the second, but the greatest fear is operational disruption.
See, I
That,
would have thought compliance, so I was wrong on that one. So
mm,
interesting. Okay, so I stop sharing.
okay, yes. But thank you everyone for putting in your answer. I find it fascinating because everyone has different experiences when it comes to transitioning. You could either be very experienced or you could be newer in the industry. But that's why we're here, and that's why we're excited to share of what we've done differently at Globally and what we're doing to make things simple. Because once you do all the diligence of identifying, hey, this is the best solution for us, this is really going to transform our business and the way we're doing things, the next thing that you're considering is what is that transition experience going to be like? And so for us, we've created a better way. Globally was built to give payroll teams full control of their implementation and with less complexity. So instead of the long, resource heavy implementations, the platform guides the team through its intuitive workflows and standardized country setups. It's a very simple process and methodology within the platform. And the beauty of it, because it's intuitive, where it guides the team through every step of the data that needs to be created. Because it's already standardized, the framework is already there. And those are the compliance guardrails that we spoke of in our very first webinar. But those compliance guardrails are extremely important because when you think about what that framework looks like for a transition and what the process is going to entail, one, standardization is key because it de-risks the onboarding process for the team, but it also simplifies it as well. At the same time, the team can transition country by country. You have the ability to run test payrolls, or we call them mock payrolls, or you can call them parallel payrolls. The nomenclature can vary, but it means the same thing. But running these test payrolls, validating the results, and going live when you're confident, that's really key. And that produces the outcome of a faster deployment with lower costs because we often have experience with, traditional implementations. They can be for extended periods of time because of delays, because of challenges, surprising situations will arise. And so that the longer the implementation is, the more costly it's becoming. And that transition, when you have a faster time to value, is really important because now that's a controlled transition that you've now de-risked. Okay. And so we can talk about it, but I think we should get into the good stuff and actually show you what that experience looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic, so to speak, to Juan.
Thank you so much, Angela. Can you please confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So here we are in the platform, and the first thing that you do when you onboard into Globally will be to create your organization. So here what you will define is just like all the company information, such as the legal name, a business identification number. You will also set up who's going to be the initial company administrator, and then you will select what you want to do with us. So we have the 4 different type of solutions: global payroll, contractor pay, EOR, and agent of record. For this example, we're going to focus in the global payroll, and then we're going to set up all the countries that you're going to be covered. Then after that, we're going to go back here to this screen that we have here. That is to basically finish the setup of your organization. So the first step will be to configure your organization, and we understand that payroll data not only lives in your current provider, but also in different accounting systems. So we have the ability to set up an early integration so you can pull data rather than use a lot of manual work. So here we have, you can set up with your current accounting system, or you can actually set up with your HR system of record to pull that data directly and streamline the process, reducing manual work. So here, as you can see, I have already connected with one accounting system. And then we're going to move to set up the organization structure. So To set up the organization, the first thing that we're going to do is set up the departments, and we have 3 ways that we can do this. So we can do this using the globally template, that is a CSV file. We can manually enter or pull that data from their accounting system. So for this example, I'm going to continue with the manual entry. And here you can see just the example of the name of the departments, their codes, and also to define which ones are the leadership teams and also which ones are going to be the support and culture teams. Now we continue, and we're going to now set up the general ledger. So for this, just before continuing, normally, this could be done by a HR team or a payroll team member. However, in the case that this is done by a HR team member that doesn't have any access to the general ledger, you can skip this process and continue the organization structure, such as set up the roles and also the seniority, and then allocate this section to a payroll team member. However, for this example, we're going to just continue to set up the general ledger. And in this case, you can also use the globally template, but as we saw in the integrations part, we have already integrated with an accounting system. So we're going to pull the data from there. Here, as you can see, we have the accounting system. We have already pulled the data. And here we have the data in the middle that we have. And then the only thing that we need to do is just the mapping of the pay codes on the left, and then we can do the mapping of those specific items for the departments in the platform. And as you can see, this is a lot of like manual data that already lives in an accounting system, but you don't have to do like entering by one. So everything is just pulled directly, and you just have to map this, which is going to help you a lot to reduce this type of transition process. Now we are prompted to the role selection. So in this case, we can do again, we can just manually enter the information or use the globally template. So in here, we're going to use the globally template. That is a simple CSV file. We're going to map the departments that we have already set up with the roles and their descriptions. I have already uploaded that one. And here we have it. So here we have the different type of roles per department and their descriptions. And as you can see, here we can see the other ones per the different departments. And now what the platform is doing is mapping these roles with the information that we set up of the departments and also with the general ledger. Because in globally, the roles are not a simple label that you're going to add when you onboard an employee. They are really linked to the different pay codes, and they're going to be set up for a specific overtime rules that you will be able to also set up in the platform. Now, the final step to set up the organization will be the seniority. So in this case, we have these standard seniority levels, such as entry level, mid-level, seniority level. And if you want to add any specific levels, you can add them so it meets your organizational needs. And that's how simple it is to just set up your organizational structure that is going to then help you to add employees one by one or even using a bulk upload. Now, the next thing that we can do is just set up any background checks for your employees. So in here, you can select any specific checks with our partner, and depending on your organizational needs, and then you can set up for each specific country and roles. Then you can also set up any administrator users, because as you can see here, we can assign a specific section. So you can create any users, for example, what I mentioned before, such as having the HR team leader and also the payroll team leader. You can start assigning sections to each other just to support this onboarding process. And then finally, for the organizational structure, we have the billing entities. So for this demo, I have set up 2 entities. So we have the main entity that is Shield. I'm not sure if there's any Marvel fans in the audience, but here we have set up the entity details. We also set up the ownership and also which countries this billing entity is going to serve. So as we can see, we have like multiple countries around the world. And then we can set up the billing details, such as the currencies, also the billing address and the payment method. If I go now to the second entity, this is in this case Shield Africa, and this is going to serve for the African countries. So this is going to allow you, having multiple billing entities, going to allow you to set up your own payroll structure that is going to allocate for your needs. So if you want to have like a regional area to manage, like for example, in this example, the entity in Ghana to set up the African region, that's something that you can do, and you can add multiple billing entities. Now we can move. We have completed everything in configured organization, and what we can do now is move to configure benefits. So here what we're going to see a little bit is how to set up carriers, policies, and also plans within those policies. So if I go here to carriers, here you can add any specific carriers that, for example, we have here out of the box in the platform. So, but if there is your specific carrier that you want to use is not here, you can actually add the carrier manually. So you provide all that general information, and you can start setting up the policies through the platform, as I'm going to show you in a second. Now, if I open here the carrier, you can see all the carrier information, such as the available plans, locations, also website and phone number. And if we dive in now, we can see the different policies. In this case, we have this policy, and we can see the policy details, such as the currency, the premium term, also the effective dates, and the locations that are offered. So in this case, we have like the different countries. And you can also set up the eligibility criteria for the employees. So not only by country, but also you can set up in this example, the age limit for not only the employee, but also a specific dependents. And I just want to mention that this is done through an internal workflow of the platform. So you don't need to request any IT support or code changes to set up this eligibility criteria. Everything is done within the platform. Then we're going to just explore a little bit more of the plans list. So within this policy, I have two plans, the accident and medical insurance. And if I just dive in here, we can see the details of this specific plan. So here we can see, for example, the cost for the primary care visit, deductibles, and below that we can see also the difference in terms of like the benefit items. So for these medical benefits, we have the outpatient, inpatient, and also further benefits for this light plan. However, if I click here in compare plans, this is the screen that your employees are going to see when they onboard into the platform. So as soon as they finish providing their personal information, they're going to be prompted to select the benefits. So in this case, we have three different types of benefits. That is the light, standard, and premium medical. And we have the different benefit elements that we just saw before, and we have it here inpatient and further benefits. So this is going to allow your employees to actually like have side by side the different options that you are offering, so they can make an informed decision and start creating that trust within the organization. And this is going to be one of the first process that are going to do within your company. Okay, so that was just a brief overview of how to set up the benefits. And now we are going to go to set up the countries. So in this case, as I mentioned before, when we create the company, we set up the payment solutions and also the countries that we're going to cover. And for this demo, we're going to finish setting up Ecuador. So the first thing that we need to do is just set up the entity information. So we just define that there is going to be an entity in this specific country. We just provide just the general information, such as their names, also the register address for that entity. We define also a specific directory information, and we also provide the required documents for that specific country. Let me just upload it over here. Second.
And I see some questions, so please keep the questions coming, and we're excited to address them at the end in our Q&A session. So please put all of your questions in the chat. Thank you.
And after that, we can just go and set up the payroll rules. So here, the first thing that we need to do is just select the payroll currencies. So in this case, Ecuador is a country that is dollarized. So the only option to select is the USD. However, there could be different countries. For example, nowadays, Argentina has the ability to set up payroll with the US dollar, also the Argentinian peso. What we do then is just select the payroll frequency. And in this case, we have selected monthly, and then we have also set up the first pay period of the year. So in this case, we select the 1st of January, and the end date will be the end of the month. And you can also select the specific pay date that you want to provide for your employees. After here, as I briefly mentioned in the first demo, so Globally can provide funding services. So in the case that you don't want to do payroll funding, and here we just have to set up how you want to fund the payroll, how you're going to fund the tax payments, and also the Globally fees. And finally, we can set up any specific tax information, such as in this example, the Social Security contribution for Ecuador, or like a municipal payroll contribution. And if I open here, we can just set up the registration for this tax, then the registration date, also the specific rate that we want to apply, and the effective date if it's necessary. Then, well, we already talked about benefits, and what we're going to do there is just like set up the benefits that we're going to offer for Ecuador. Then in terms of the background checks, as I show you there, we just go there and select the specific check that we want to offer, and it's going to be prompted in the self-service onboarding process for your employees to complete before the hire date. Then we have the documents. So if I open here, you can add the specific documents again for your employees to either acknowledge or sign during the self-service onboarding flow. This could be something such as like the specific for this country, such as just like a link to a government website of employment laws, or if you want to provide just a general compliance document that they need to sign before starting working with you. Then you can also set up a specific time policies for your country. So in this case, I have set up the holiday leave, that is vacaciones, and also licencia por enfermedad, that is going to be the sick leave. So here, if I just click the add new policies, so here basically you have the opportunity to just like have the flexibility to provide just the general information, the effective date, and also like the accrual information. And then we are going to go now to upload the year-to-date information. So what we're going to do here is just going to fast track this type of adding existing or new employees with their year-to-date data. So here I'm going to click yes. We're going to upload the employee data for Ecuador. It's going to drop it here. And then we are going to assume that we had some year-to-date data for the past year. So we're going to click here, yes. And we're going to upload first the year-to-date for the period of November. So here we just select the dates, and we said that it's the 25th. And then we're going to also upload the date for December. So here we select the dates again. And then we continue. So that information that I uploaded in those year-to-date had a specific pay elements from your organization. So now what we're going to do is map those pay elements with our internal pay codes, so the payroll can be processed as soon as possible. So here we're going to have, for example, the monthly salary is going to be basic salary. Variable incentive sounds like a bonus. Then we have extra hours, that's going to be overtime. So if I just go really quickly to overtime pay, we have the retirement savings. This is retirement, is also pension. So here we have pension and retirement contributions. Loan repayments, Then income withholding, that's going to be taxes. So here we have it. And then we have the final one, that is social protection. That should be social security. So here we have it. So like this is that how easy it is to just map what your current pay elements look like with our pay codes. So now we just continue. And here we have the 2 periods that we have set up for November and December. So here we have the employee information and also the information and the data that we have uploaded already mapped with the specific pay codes of Globally. Now we continue. And then in the first Excel that we uploaded, we also upload all the information for their employees. So everything related to their job title, department, and also hire data, who they report to, because this is going to meet the organization details that we set up when we set up the departments and the roles. So this is going to also populate the organizational chart that I'm going to show you in a second. And that's how easy it is to just upload this information. And as I'm going to show you in a second, the employees have already been invited, have already been drafted in the platform. So you only have to complete the onboarding flow. So
and the beauty of the solution, because of the flexibility of having complete control of the system in itself in the data that you're sharing, it also gives complete flexibility with the mapping and how data is mapped. So Juan showed examples of, for example, the benefits data. We know that benefits information needs to have a workflow that feeds the benefit deductions into payroll. So having that information already seamlessly set up. Now, whether you're adding that information or mapping it from a different system because of our open API capabilities, it's going to be a different experience, but every company is unique. Some organizations are going to have those capabilities and systems in place where others do not. So again, you have the flexibility where the system is meeting you where you are versus, oh, we don't have that ability. So how are we going to get that information over into the system? But it's just another way to really give you that freedom and complete control over the process.
Perfect. Thank you, Angela. And after this, we have complete the setup of Ecuador. And the next step that I wanted to show you is just like how it's going to look for your HR teams to add employees, and also for your employees to see how it's going to be working with Globally. So the first step that I just want to make just a quick refresher for the ones that didn't come for the first demo. So here, this is the people's module. So this is the source of truth that will be used for Globally. However, as Angela was just mentioning, we have the ability to integrate with different platforms. So in the case that you want to keep your HR system of record and they have the capability to connect to integrate with us with Open API, then you don't have to manually enter the information into the Globally platform. So as soon as you have a new update in your platform, it's going to be reflected in this specific view. And what you have here is just a general view of your workforce, such as, their name, job title, department, and you also have different views, because again, this is not going to be only for a HR team. This is going to be also for leadership teams and also finance teams to try to understand and try to find immediate answers. So for example, if they want to find any specific contact details, they can just go here to the directory view. Or if they want to see a specific information, you can see here are all the Ecuador employees that we have already added in the previous step. And then we also have what I just mentioned, the organizational chart, that is going to be easy for any team to navigate and understand how the organization is structured. And again, like at the end, we don't only want to have like just raw data all around, but we want to like get immediate answers. So for example, if we want to just like filter out by the European countries, let's say Germany and Spain, just with a couple of clicks, you get all the employees for those specific countries. But now let's just go and set up an employee. So normally we'll go through this process and click here, hire new employee, but this is going to be a really time-consuming process that I have already pre-filled for you. So here we have Pedro Santos from Ecuador. I'm going to edit the profile to see what exactly is the information that you need to fill for hiring a new employee. So the first thing that we need to do, as you probably also remember from the first demo, is selecting the country that we're going to hire and just set up the personal details for that employee, such as their name and personal email. Then we're going to move and select the role information. So here are the same departments and roles that we have already mapped. That's why it's really important that the information is key. And also if it comes directly from your from your accounting system, it's going to just have a streamlined process when you are adding already an employee in the system. So here we're going to set up the seniority and the GL codes again that we have already set up. And we also set up the employment details, such as the status, contract type, and also the working days. And you can also toggle in the probation period in days, and also any specific rules for overtime for that specific role. Then we go to the compensation part, that in this case you can set up for the currency, for the local entity or the local country. In this case, it's going to be the same. You can also set up for annual salary and also set up the gross annual salary. Then we have you can add also specific variable payments and recurrent payments. And here you have the annual leave that, as you saw, we already set up. And with Globally, you also have the ability to track any equity compensation within the platform. Now we continue. And then I'm just going to prompt to the document section. So here you're going to be able to upload your offer letter, employment agreement, and also set up with an e-signature integration. So your employees during the self-service onboarding flow, they can just like review this information and sign it electronically. And then you will have a summary and Globally work with licenses. So in the case that at the beginning of the process you haven't set up enough licenses, you can purchase them on demand. However, we normally don't hire only one person. We hire like probably multiple people at the same time. So we also have the ability to do the batch upload. So here we can select the country that we're going to upload people. So in this case, we're going to select Philippines and download the template. So this template is going to highlight the fields that you need to populate, and also they need to make reference to the organization structure. So it's going to request, for example, the managers, the roles, and also the departments which these employees are going to be hired for. So they need to match what you have already set up. So if I just drag and drop here, perfect. Here we're going to hire 5 new employees for Philippines. And as you can see, just mentioned, for example, the role title, we can see the compensation, email, and hire date, and who they report to. So this is extremely important to also populate that organizational chart that I was just mentioning before. Then we continue.
Now, speaking about how a lot of this information, whether you're adding the information, but also just speaking about a lot of the different data elements that one kind of walked you through. The beauty of a lot of the information, whether it's you managing the system with just the payroll information, or if you do have from your HR colleagues the data that's residing in a different solution through the API, a lot of that information can pass through the integration. For example, if you happen to be using Workday, we're a Workday partner. So in those instances with the integration, a lot of the employee information for new hires would go ahead and transfer from Workday into the Globally solution, since Globally is the payroll solution for the payroll team.
Thank you, Angela.
Mm-hmm.
And here you can see just the summary of the employees that you're going to invite. And here we have just also an overview of how the payment page will look like. So in this case, as you can see, I have set up like multiple licenses. So there is no need to buy new ones, as we only need 5. And then as simple as that, we just click complete. And if we, for example, go to Philippines, we can see here the employees that we have invited. So Ria, Francis, Nicole, Andres, and Kevin. So these employees will receive an email notification to register into the platform using an email and a password. And I'm going to just show you right now how it's going to look for them to enter into Globally, first as an existing employee, and then as a new employee, as these flows significantly vary one from another. So just looking in over here. And this is for an existing employee. So the first that we're going to see is just a welcome message, and also for them to accept specific permissions. They're going to be asked to upload their profile picture, and they need to do any specific verifications. So if, for example, I dive in here, they have to verify the personal information, and below that they can see also the only space that they can change. And then here they have all the information regarding the role details, employment details, and also the compensation. And they will have to also set up any specific emergency contacts. Then if we go back, they can also set up the deposit. So in this case, they're going to set up their bank account. And then finally, they will be able to just see their benefits verification page, where they are going to see the specific screens that I showed you before, and also set up the communities profile that is going to be the internal Ethernet, in this case for Shield. So now if I log out, I'm going to show you how this process looks for a new employee. So quite similar to what we saw before. Here we're hiring Lim as a new employee in Malaysia. And here again, we have the permissions screens that we saw for the other employee, but now what we're going to do is just like add a role and on compensation verification. And the difference between what we saw before is that they only were able to change the personal information. Here, what we can see is that the employee can just like make sure that everything that was agreed is in this offer, including the role details, employment details, and also the compensation. And if there is any issues, they can decline this offer, and the HR manager will be able to correct this as soon as possible. And then finally, they're going to be prompted to provide all the personal information. I'm just going to walk you through here as I want to make emphasis on the mock payroll solution that we're going to show in a second. But here, what we're going to do is just, they will provide just all the profile information, such as the personal details, migration information, all the required documents that we have set up for Malaysia in this case, and tax information, and set up the deposit. Then they will be prompted to select the benefits that you have been offered for Malaysia. And then you have the signature of documents such as the offer letter, employment agreement, or any specific documents that we have set up for acknowledge or sign or signature in the country profile, in the country configuration part. And finally, you can see at the bottom that we can see the community section for them to finish the onboarding process. So now we're going to go to payroll. That is one of the most important things for this demo. And here we have the global payroll part. So these are actual payrolls that we have, but one of the processes that we really want to make emphasis is the mock payroll. So if I click here in mock payroll, I have already like tested one, and we have another one for Germany. And just to give a little bit of a refresher for probably the ones that did not come for the first demo. So how the process look like is we always start in the start payroll, where we have the input of the information for those specific pay codes. Then we submit the payroll to our gross student engine. That were, as I showed in the previous demo, our AI engine is going to be always scraping for information and also integrated with local jurisdictions to get any specific updates for for the pay codes. And if there is any update, our internal compliance and payroll teams are going to be notified for them to check the change, run internal calculations, and approve or reject.
Oh, we've lost you.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
So, okay, perfect. So, yeah, just giving the brief explanation how our internal team will just receive the changes of the AI and is going to validate using internal calculations and apply any specific effective dates for those changes. So after, and that will be the output for the gross to net to make the gross to net engine to make the calculations. And that's where we are right now. So here we have the different calculations and also the employee and tax contributions. And what we're going to do here is click approve. Again, as you can see, when you are in the mock payroll feature, you are going to always have this specific message that you are in this payroll mode. So this is not going to affect any treasury or any finances. This is for you to test and also to check with existing payroll data. So we're going to here click approve. We're going to, we move to like that the payroll was funded successfully. Again, we are in this mock payroll mode and we can go now to the comparison. So here what we're going to do is just upload a document that is going to compare what our gross net engine calculated of what you had. So let me just drag and drop over here. And we're going to run the calculations. And here, as you can see, there is going to be a perfect match. So we have on top the information that is there, and then you have like probably a specific little difference between what we currently have and what is there, probably for some reimbursements that need to be adjusted. But here we have 100% match of what it was calculated and your internal data. So then you can go here and approve the mock payroll. In the case that there is no match, there is no a significant match percentage, it's not going to let you approve the payroll. And in the case that is between 95 and 100%, you can provide an approval justification. In this case, we're just going to approve as we are in 100% match. And your mock payroll has been officially approved.
And I think with that one, we should take a moment because we certainly want to make sure we address the questions in the chat. I promised everyone I would answer them. But as you saw, what Juan walked us through was one, simplifying and really you can see it's a very simple process and what would normally be very time consuming is very different through the automation and the guardrails within the platform. So thank you for that. And then seeing the tests, parallel payroll runs. So running those mock payrolls and being able to control creating those runs at any time because of the gross to net AI engine that's native in the platform. That's quite powerful. But let's get to these questions. So if I scroll up, the first question, how is Globally AI used to support the new client onboarding process? That's a great question. So the Globally solution, it's powered by AI. So what that means is the heart of the platform, what we have is the ability to, we have a rover. And when it comes to the heart of the platform, it's around compliance and the compliance guardrails that are built within it. So any regulatory compliance changes that the rover goes out, whether it's disseminating through the web, bringing that information in, and then we have a team that validates all data that is pulled in, or whether it's in the information, the data that's gathered from integrations from different compliance sites as well with the different local governments. That's also, again, there's always a human element of checking that information. But that's one, because without having the compliance guardrails that creates the standardization and the framework within the system, then it would be a completely different process. Second, there is what we call a knowledge assist. So as you're going through the onboarding process and you're maybe not sure about something about a particular country, the AI can address those type of compliance questions that you have, whether it's payroll, taxes. It could even be from our country insights, maybe related question around an employment law query. So That's another area. And then also there's the prompts. So there is an area where you can ask your AI where, hey, I'd like you to take me to this section because I would like to add, 5 new employees. So you can prompt the AI to redirect you and take you where you need to be in case you're looking for a faster way or a shortcut to get to those data elements that you want to get added into the system and maybe prioritize. Another question was, benefit providers may be different for a company operating in multiple countries. Can benefit providers be set up uniquely for each country? Yes. The system, whether it's the benefit providers that we already have relationships with or the more commonly used providers in those countries, if you have a unique relationship with a different provider, absolutely we can set it up because the system is completely custom tailored and bespoke to your needs. So we're not going to force you to be, to use a particular provider because the solution is not a one size fits all. It is custom tailored to your setup and your benefits. Another question, how can you manage local language pay elements being required on pay slips? So the beauty of the solution, we do have language translation capability. Currently, we have up to 25 different languages within the solution. We continue to add additional languages as well in the platform. And so this is something that we're very excited about. And that's gaining a lot of traction because language is very important in the local language. And in order to be compliant, because compliance is, of course, a priority in our industry and what we do as a partner, that's something that we would provide for you as a valued client. Does the platform work in multiple? Yes. So that was probably another question off of that one, but yes. So we do provide multiple languages, as I mentioned. Um, any advice on managing the relationship with the current provider during the transition? When would you advise telling them? Is it usual to get issues with current providers during transition? I like to think that all providers are respectful, and certainly there's contractual agreements that require them to be. Because if you have a termination clause in the contract, as long as you abide by the contractual agreement, whether they require a termination notice within a certain window of time, and you fall within that, then they being a good, partner. Maybe they just no longer fulfill your needs or your requirements around technology, or what your long-term strategy may be, but they should do the right thing. And you should follow those contractual, agreements around the termination clause. I think when you are telling them and advising them, as long as you're following their rules around that, then they should be helpful in providing you the information that you need. They cannot hold your data hostage. That I would be very surprised if they tried, but they should not. I don't think any one of them would. And once you get the information that you have at that point, then we would be able to help you take that information and complete the rest of the onboarding process. I don't think it is usual to get issues from current providers during a transition. Have I seen it happen though? Yes, I have, unfortunately. I have seen it happen. And in those instances, I think, again, as long as you have your contract and you hold firm to it, then there's no way for them to escape it, and they can't, again, hold that data hostage. In terms of money movement, are there any countries that you are prohibited from using this service for? Um, when it comes to being prohibited and providing the service, it would really be the sanctioned countries. Naturally, there is a list of sanctioned countries that would prohibit us, but there aren't outside of those sanctioned countries any other country that would prohibit us from being able to assist or help you. If there are any particular, countries of concern, you can always reach out to us, and we're happy to have that conversation with you, a deeper conversation around that. Do you have integration to time and attendance data? Yes. So not only do we have our own time and attendance capability within the solution, but we also can integrate with those solutions. Oh, you know what? I lost the questions. Melanie,
Do you want me to run the poll and then get the questions up? Because we're just
yeah,
thinking of
that
time.
that would be great. And so here, while you're getting that up, let me just go through more of the questions. So yes, we can integrate. We have open API capabilities and we are completely agnostic. So we can integrate whether it's the HR systems, time and attendance systems, or other internal systems that you use that's unique to your organization. How do you manage the different tax and regulatory requirements for different countries? So yes, that's absolutely a responsibility that is on globally. So again, our AI actually manages that by pulling the information from data integration that we have with different government jurisdictional sites, or from our rover that's pulling that information in. Again, we do have a team, so there's always a human validation process that once we retrieve that information, we review it, we confirm it and validate it by our team, and then it becomes live within the system at the appropriate time. If it's a regulatory change that has an effective date, then usually once we complete the validation process from our team of experts, we communicate what those changes are going to be to our valued clients, letting them know of what the impending change is. Maybe it needs to be effective by the end of 2026. But once that communication has been disseminated, then as we approach the effective date, we always communicate and share that with our valued clients, and then it becomes effective immediately in the solution.
Sorry,
Um,
to just go on to the next question. The poll's up on screen. So are you considering changing providers this year? Yes, no, or maybe? Over to you, Angela.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I was just reading out the poll question because we're just waiting for people to
Oh,
fill in. So back to you.
okay. Um, and I think the question around payments, it was around the tax payments and how we pay those taxes. So yes, globally manages all of the tax payments on your behalf. That's part of the outsourced payroll service with us. So we would manage that. But again, if we're prohibited, it would be in the countries that are sanctioned. But we're responsible for that. We have a global payroll team and tax team. So when we're managing the payments, once you fund your account and you fund the payroll, we go ahead and take the funds. We'll go ahead and manage all the currency conversions, and then we go ahead and distribute the payroll and manage paying all the employees across the globe, as well as handling all the statutory distributions as well, which are the country taxes. In addition to that, in some instances where um, if you are only interested in having us do the tax payments, but then maybe in a country or two you want to manage the payment to the employees, we do offer that flexibility. The value, of course, in completely outsourcing that is the reconciliation process, because the reconciliation report would go back to you as well as feed into the general ledger through the general ledger integration. So there are benefits and value of having us manage the complete payment process. Then the other question is, when mapping client pay elements per country, do you have standard pay elements per country already set up and globally? And then you map what you have to what the client has. That's a great question. And yes, because the AI within the system, it is, the compliance aspect of it, the country insights, all of that is built within the application. So because of that, it creates standardization of what pay elements we need to track for each and every country. Going to be unique. You're not going to have the same data mapping for Brazil that you would in Taiwan. So it's very specific and unique to each country. And the beauty is because it's already built within the platform, you don't have to be an expert of that country in order to provide us the information because the system's going to ask you, it's going to have it already listed in the standardized process. And now you're just walking through it intuitively, adding the information that the Globally platform is requiring. Okay, I went through all the questions. I just want to thank everyone so much, Melanie, and the GPA community. Thank you all so much for your time. You all have been lovely, and we're very excited about our third webinar that's coming up as well. So stay tuned for that. But thank you all so much. And for more information, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to have deeper conversations and help you with that.
Well, thank you so much. I think you did a fab job getting all the questions done just right on time. So, Angela and Juan, thank you so much. The next session is on the 28th of Jan, so I'll share that with everybody over the next 24 hours. But great, really great to see the software. Really love it. It's really, really good. So, but anyway, but thank you, and I'll look forward to seeing everyone hopefully in a couple of weeks. So see you then.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.